praise his feet, my Savior that cursed tree. His body bound and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone. Messiah still all alone. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise, O Lord, our God. On the third, at break of dawn, the Son of Heaven rose again. Oh, trample death, where is your sting? The angels roar for Christ the King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise, O Lord, our God. He shall return in robes of white, the blazing sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise, O Lord, should have done this before. A peace to a restless soul. You are peace when my thoughts wage war. You are peace to an anxious heart. That's who you are. That's who you are. You are peace when my fear takes hold. You are peace when I feel enclosed. Oh, you are peace when I lose control. That's who you are. That's who you are. When the oceans rise and thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still, know you are God. I will be still, know you are God. I will be still, know you are God.
You are our King of Peace. And so we come to be still. We come to grow in that peace. But we do that not just to rest, but so that we might be brave, so that we might go out into stormy oceans, so we might negotiate all that is within our world to be peacemakers. And so we pray this time would be a blessing to us, and we would then in turn bless others. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Have a seat, everybody. Is the microphone working okay? It sounds it's all right, a bit quiet. Up the back, you might see some friends who have just returned. Grace and Joyce's little kids. Welcome. They've just arrived from France. Say hello. They'll be sharing with us in coming weeks, but it's good to have them here with us. If you have kids, now is the time if you want to go upstairs. There's a kids program upstairs. The leaders are up there waiting for you, so you can head up. Just go up the back stairwell that's just about there. So that's the easiest way up. But lots of fun things up there for you today. So we've been looking together about God's care and what he cares about. Hopefully you've picked up one of these booklets. If you haven't, come and grab one. Otherwise we toss them out. So use them. And that will have some information about 6 weeks of teaching, a couple of projects that we're supporting, and some actions that you can take through the week with your friends and family. Let me see. Maybe I'll talk about that after. Often, I guess, we have other cares, things that we worry about. We were just singing a song about God's peace in a tumultuous world. And some of us live that life each day, don't we? We have things that cause us stress and anxiety and worry and fear. How do we address that? How do we negotiate that? Some of that we cause for ourselves. We become anxious about our future. And so out of that anxiety, we can behave in ways that are not actually helpful for us. Like, what should I do today? What should I do with my life? The time before it all together, we were talking to the kids about what do you want to do when you grow up? And that can be a burden. Opportunity can cause crisis. What should I do? So many choices. Maybe you're in a situation where you've made those choices and you think, oh, gee, I've made the wrong choice. I read a study out of America the other day that says 69% of people are unhappy in their jobs. 69% are unhappy. 19% hate their jobs. And only 13% are happy. Maybe you're in that situation. Oh no, I've made the wrong choice. Am I stuck? Life is more than just our job, isn't it? We face those choices in our relationships, in our interests, things that take our energy and focus. What should I do? What am I seeking? What am I pursuing? Here's maybe a fun way into that. Turn it up a little bit if you would, Chris.
As I stand here today in my big rubber boots and this red plastic hat that's a little too large. I start to think about maybe getting a job and making some cash, being in charge. Because it's career day, and I'm here to say what I'll be someday when I grow up. It's career day, and I'm here to say what I'll be someday when I grow up. Hit a baseball, kick a football, gonna grow so tall when I grow up. Be a princess, find a treasure chest, gonna be the best when I grow up. It's career day, and I'm here to say what I'll be someday when I grow up. It's career day, and I'm here to say what I'll be someday when I grow up. Be a doctor or a teacher, be a leader when I grow up. Be a circus clown, gonna build this town. I'll be world renowned when I grow up. It's career day, and I'm here to say what I'll be someday when I grow up. It's career day, and I'm here to say what I'll be someday when I grow up.
What should I do? Choosing our career in what we, in terms of, well, and how to to question. One might be if the lead is long enough, which it's not going to be. So if you could help that, Sam. I'll just keep talking while we play with leads. So sometimes you need people who know how to do practical things. What else should we do? How do I fit my life within what God is doing in the world? Part of being part of a family like this is that we help one another answer that question. So we discuss with each other, what should I do? What's a good fit for me or not a good fit for me? We help each other imagine, what is God calling us to do? We support and encourage one another to do that. And some of you will have had that experience when life is hard and you think, I don't want to do this anymore, or is it the right thing? Speaking, praying, sharing with other people can help you resolve that. Thank you. Excellent, Sam. Well done. So what we're going to do today is learn from another person's experience. How do we answer that question? It will be unique to us, but we can learn from the experience of other people. And so Steph, very unwillingly, but she's going to do it anyway, is going to come and share a bit about her experience of living in mission for God. How does she answer those questions? How has she answered those questions in the past and in the present? And she's going to talk to us for a little while, and then you can grill her with 100 questions. I think, is that right? No? Okay. Anyway, thanks, Steph.
Hey, everyone. So, when John asked me to do this talk, or just to talk today, I kind of thought, okay, I can talk about Mongolia and what I've done, and because I've just been on a trip, and I can just talk about that. But when he said, I want to talk about you to talk about the choices that you made to get to where you are, then that was a bit of a harder question. I'm like, I think I've just kind of done what I wanted to do. I don't actually feels really selfish. I'm not sure that that's anything to emulate. I don't even know if where God is sometimes. But here I am, and I need to talk to you. And I did think about it the last 5 days, and it has been a helpful exercise actually. But I will just tell you a little bit about myself and what I am doing. So that's just an annoying slide because seeing out of focus is really annoying. So what do? I am an optometrist. Currently I have a job I have 3 jobs actually. So my first job is working in schools in Western Sydney where kids don't get the care that we have here, and parents don't take them for eye tests and stuff like that. So we get glasses for them. And I also do work in Aboriginal Australia. So over the years I have worked all around Australia in the Northern Territory and in the small communities for over 10 years. At the moment I actually have a really nice job working in Nowra on the south coast. So I get to drive down the beautiful coast there a couple of times a month. And my third job is just supporting the work in Mongolia and doing work overseas. So this is a bunch of the places that I've been to. I've been to Bangladesh, that was my first gig, Mongolia, China, Myanmar, so all of that times. If I have a specialty as an optometrist, it is doing outreach clinics and also not being committed to any job. So as you'll see, this is my work timeline over the years and all the different places I've been to. And so like it might seem like I've had a really clear direction in life, like going to all these different places, working, helping people in all these developing countries. But like it definitely hasn't been kind of a smooth ride at all. Yeah, actually, let me just go with that. So I have been let me just tell you actually what I have been doing in Mongolia, and then we'll go to the different questions that I've had along the way. So Mongolia is actually the place I've been to most, and I've been all over the country and seen amazing places, or corners of the country. So I've been working there 20 years, and over that time, right at the beginning, I used to just do clinics, go out to some remote places in the city and do eye checks for adults and kids, and get them glasses to be able to see better. Over the years, I've started to get more into training roles and teaching the local people how to do the eye tests themselves, because as you'd imagine, me coming in from Australia and doing an eye check, what happens afterwards when their eyes change, when they need new glasses, or when their glasses break, what happens, do they have anyone to help them then? So I've kind of shifted over as the opportunity has risen as well into being able to train the local people and training them to be able to train others so that there can be an ongoing course. So at the moment, the last 5 years or so, or 7 years, since 2015, 2017, we've been running training courses for eye doctors from the provinces. And so this is some pictures from that. So they get clinical, they get teaching, and then they get some supervision. We see patients, and we kind of get them to a stage where they're good enough to go and check eyes and prescribe them themselves. And that's been good. And so one thing that I've been doing that has been important too is just training some of the, like mentoring some key trainers. So the lady there in the top right picture from there, she's one of our main trainers. And so she has, like I ran the course with her a couple of times, and this year, just in May actually, she and another Mongolian, they ran the course themselves without me. And so that's been really, really good. And they did a great job. So after the training, some really cool things happen. The doctors, they have a lot of spirit and motivation, and I love it because they live in the provinces, like the remote kind of capital cities, and they have a passion to actually get eye care out to their own people. And so they've taken initiative to go into disability centres, to go into schools, just to test the people in their areas, and also sometimes to go into the really remote places as well. So if you look at the map here, this is Mongolia. It's about a bit bigger than Victoria, I suppose, here. So if you imagine, Mongolia is a little bit like Australia. It's got really low population density. So in the capital city, UB, that little white bit in the top central right, that's where 1.5 million people live, and the rest of the people live spread out all over the rest of the country in kind of really distant, like it's a long drive in between places often. And if you look, like each little province there, all the different colours, there's 21 provinces or something. So I've trained actually one eye doctor from, we've trained together, a doctor from each of those provinces. And so that means that people from all over the country now have a chance to get glasses, the right glasses that they need. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So it hasn't been a smooth ride. I can actually read this slide now. I've had a lot of questions along the way. I haven't really been knowing that I'm doing the right thing all the time. Like some of these trips that I've been on, they've only been a few weeks a year, and like I'm spending a lot of time in Australia and thinking, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Those exact questions that John was talking about. So this is just kind of a snapshot of some of the things that I've faced. If any of them stick out to you, I don't want to answer all of them. Okay, the first one is actually a pretty critical one. I thought I was just when I was 16, 17, I've always looked at myself as being a bit of a dreamer and thinking, oh yeah, you thought you could be a soccer star. But I did actually face a question back then. I did get offered, I think a team was actually trying to recruit me to play for one of the top teams in the state. And I was year 11, and I actually thought, should I do this? Because he said, you have to start now. You can't wait till after uni if you're going to be be really good. And so it actually made me think, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to be a sports person? Do I want to train and focus and, maybe play for Australia in the Sydney Olympics kind of thing? But it was actually a moment of clarity for me when I was wrestling with that, because in the end I went, actually that's not the person I want to be, because the person that I'd actually learned about in church, I suppose, and through my parents and growing up, I think this Jesus person that I knew, he was someone who cared for people and lived for other people. And as a 17-year-old, I actually thought, that's the kind of person I want to be. I want to look after other people and help other people. And so that actually shaped the rest of my life, I think. funnily enough, when I think about it now. Because I then chose my profession, what job I wanted to do, according to, what do I think other people in the world need. And at the time, I actually had this idea of, the rest of the developing world, and I knew how much we had in Australia, and I knew that I actually wanted to do something to make it a bit more equal between what we have and what other people have in the rest of the world. And that has stayed with me. So that meant that I actually chose, at first I thought, oh yeah, I'll be an engineer and I'll help people, make wheelchairs for people with disabilities in developing countries. But I did a year of engineering and I absolutely hated it. And then you could say I saw the light and I did optometry, but I actually accidentally fell into optometry. But I accidentally came into optometry, but it has still fit, and I've been able to, see the need in other countries and use the skills that I've had to work in that way. What other questions do you want me to answer? Only I was married. Actually, I spent a year in Mongolia in 2003-4. I kind of came back, and actually I had the idea that I wanted to go back and work, live in a country, live maybe back in Mongolia, and because that's what I thought was going to be the most impactful. But I actually came back and was in a bit of an emotional mess. Went to Bible college and studied still, because I thought that's what I needed to do to work long-term overseas. But I felt like if I did go overseas and live there, I wouldn't actually be able to survive very well. I wouldn't be able to thrive. I would only just be surviving, and I've had to face that in myself. Go, actually, I'm not up for that. But I did have the thought at the time, if I was married, I'd have support, maybe, and I'd be able to I'd be able to go overseas and do what I thought I should do. So, yeah, should I pursue getting married? But that's not something you can choose anyway, the timing of. So I ended up just doing what I could do, what I knew I could manage, and that was going back short-term lots of times to different places. And in the end, it's actually become a gift in a way, or something that seems maybe a bit unusual for me, that I can travel to lots of different places and still be okay and enjoy it. And it's actually something that I thrive in some ways. It's almost like I have a bit of ADHD and I can't settle in places. So it's, yeah. If only I was better at my job. Every time I've gone overseas and worked, say, my very first trip to Bangladesh, I was only 2 years out of uni, and I was doing these eye camps, out in the back blocks of nowhere, and all these people had cataract surgeries, but they had this type of surgery where they have the lens taken completely out of the eye, which is rarely done these days. But that meant that all the adults that we saw, they had Coke bottle glasses. And so I was doing eye tests for all these people, and some of these people had walked 2 or 3 days to see me, and then they'd sat and waited all day, and they were kind of sitting around the clinic all day while I was trying to test all their eyes. And so that was actually a very confronting time, because I'm like, I'm doing all these eye tests for people, and they're thinking of me as this amazing foreign doctor who's come to give them good sight. And I've never seen a case of this before in my life in Australia. What am I doing? Am I actually being a help or not? I think I was. I did get some encouragement in that way, but it has I do face a lot of situations in Mongolia as well all the time. They have really complex cases, and we don't face them here because other people see them, not the optometrists here. And they're just difficult cases. So it has been kind of something I've had to realise that I don't have to have it all together to help, even though sometimes I've thought, maybe I just need to, get better at my job before I do any more. But I think if I did that, I would probably never go anywhere again. So I've had to come up with the attitude of I'm going to learn while I do it, and I'll learn from them as well as, and I'll give where I can. And so I've been kind of glad for that lesson, actually. I'm so bored in my job. Yeah, if you'd known me even 5 years ago, you would have heard me complain about how much I hated my job and I wanted to find something better to do. But it feels like it's taken me 20 years to realise that my job's actually valuable to people. Like being able to see actually makes a huge difference for people's lives. Kids, if they can see when they're little, they can get an education, gives them a whole future that they wouldn't otherwise have. And adults, you need to read, even if you're not a reader, you need to see things to sew or to, sort grains or whatever people are doing to keep their livelihoods. So it helps people to feed their families. It affects whole communities. So one funny story that I heard when I was away just recently was, did you know that glasses can actually stop your legs from being sore? One of the doctors that we trained, he lives out in the place called Gobi Altai, some remote place. She went out to a remote place and tested some kids in schools, and she said there was one kid, a 10-year-old boy, he used to just have to stand right up close to the board like this all day because that's the only way he could see. They had no idea that he needed glasses. And so when he got them, he was like, oh, my legs are so much better now. Now, they need trainers, and I'm not a trainer. Doing clinical work, as I said, it doesn't last long. You need to be able to, they need to learn to deal with the complex cases, to deal with cases themselves. And I've been aware that, I'm not that person who can teach. I hate being up front and talking, and I don't even know my stuff. That's how I feel. To actually be able to teach. But I guess I've learned that even though I can't do that, I've thought about, what can I do? And what I can do is actually just sit alongside other people and sit alongside one person, two people, some key people, and just mentor them. And so I've spent a lot of time just sitting with one lady, Tume, over the last few years, and just making sure she understands things, and because she is one of the key trainers for the future, and she has the ability to teach and to guide groups, and so I've just found ways that suit who I am. So I've had to accept different parts of things that I wish that I was, compared to actually who I've been made to be, and trying to make the most of that. And what I've actually found too is it's actually a helpful thing not to be able to teach because it means that I'm not tempted to take over, and I let them I push them forward to take ownership of what they're doing, and actually that's the stuff that lasts and is important. What else have I got there? Why don't you stop travelling? Oh, you know, my grandma told me that. Regularly enough, she would say that to me. Why are you always travelling? Where are you going now? I don't know what to say. I figured that stopping travelling wasn't actually going to solve the marriage problem anyway. But if the marriage thing was a problem, it's been too much in my heart to not forget the people across the other side of the world, in the other parts of the world that we do often forget. I think Jesus doesn't want us to forget. I've kind of felt like this inclination just to intentionally not forget. So I haven't wanted to stop travelling because it means that I don't forget, and I'm always reminded of how life is for so many people. And why won't you own your business? That's kind of an easy one for me because it's just too hard to own your own business. It's a lot of work, isn't it? But also it would be restrictive to have a job that is permanent, and that would close down a lot of options for me in terms of being able to respond to opportunities, and it would limit how much time I can spend away. So on that list of timeline of all those things that I've done, I've spent a year at one point, but 3 months or so sometimes. And it just gives me a whole lot of flexibility to kind of listen to what's needed by people in the other parts of the world and to actually give what I can. Let's go somewhere else. So that's my parents and my grandma. So they've been really supportive, like even though they've asked questions and wondered, why on earth are you doing this? And sometimes my mum especially has been quite afraid when I've gone places, and like I have gone places like to Bangladesh when there was tensions between the US and Iraq and stuff like that. But they've always been really supportive and enabling, so I've been so appreciative of that. So, but now we have this really amazing opportunity, it feels like, at the moment. Like when I first went to Mongolia, there was pretty much no interest in learning how to prescribe glasses properly. Everyone thought they could do it okay, and didn't think they needed to learn. But now, like the past 7 or 8 years, they've realised, actually we really, really want to learn. And so there's this big demand for the course that we're doing. So like we put out a kind of an interest thing over Facebook to see who wanted to do the refraction course that we run, and within 2 hours about 80 people had responded, and we only teach 6 or 8 in each course. So yeah, that's been exciting just to see the interest now. And you see the 2 trainers that I've got next to me in that photo. I'm really encouraged that they're a really good team together. They're hardworking, and there's a bit of strategy and good thinking in amongst them. And they've just created this association, MOSA, and as I think it has a lot of potential to actually bring together all the different people that we've trained over the years, and also bring in the new people who are training, and kind of with a bit of a momentum kind of bring change within the health system in Mongolia, because ultimately we do want a course and training that is integrated into the health system there, and have a cohort who can give that primary eye care. And it feels like that's going to be a really important way of going ahead, making change. And we do have people also that I work with who talk with the government and the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labour, that kind of thing, and to be kind of doing a lot of the groundwork for those, major changes. So I think that's kind of exciting too. at the moment, like recently, I went over to Perth too, and we were talking to some universities, or a university, and just looking at partnerships, because we want to, develop a bigger course than the refraction course that we're running. So something that's kind of even more expansive, that does kind of low vision, teaches them contact lenses, all sorts of stuff. And so if we have university support to be able to develop curriculums and all that kind of thing, then that's going to be amazing too. So I'm kind of we're working on that at the moment. Getting remote eye care, or getting eye care out to the really remote places, that's another issue. Like I did say that we've got these doctors that are in all the different provinces, but getting opportunity and motivating and kind of getting glasses to the people out in those places is a bit of a problem to solve as well, or something to work on. So yeah, I'd love to be just working on projects that kind of helps that to happen for the kids and adults in the really far away places all over the country. So this is how I feel about everything. It's a bit scary thinking about what can be, what I could be embarking on now. I feel like I'm kind of jumping in and seeing, I want to get more into supporting the work over there in a deeper way, I suppose, in a more permanent, more committed way. I'm a bit averse to commitment, but I feel like maybe this is something that I can actually commit to. And I think the freaking out and dropping the ball, that's going to be me a lot of the time. And hopefully I'm just going to bounce between the left side and the right side though, and trying to work on actually confronting some of the things that I find difficult. So I know that going into something new is and potentially failing or making mistakes, that kind of sucks a lot of the time. But yeah, looking at some of the internal stuff that stops me from kind of going forward even when I do fail, I want to do that and kind of keep trying to pursue this kind of heart that God's kind of given me, I suppose. And yeah, so I will be hopefully kind of developing some projects and some ideas about how we can support the work in Mongolia more. And yeah, so if you are interested to be involved as well, have a chat to me. Always can be good to do that. I will mention that I do have a colleague here who is from Mongolia and I've worked with, Uno. So he's actually come to church today, which is awesome. So I've worked with him for quite a few years, a really good guy. And so he's just studying in Australia at the moment. But yeah, come and meet him too. Sorry, Uno. So I don't know. Oh yeah, questions. Chris was first. Yeah. I've been to lots of different places. How did Mongolia become the focus? Yep, good question. Kind of by accident in some ways, but it was maybe, I lived there for a year. Maybe it suited who I was as well, but I lived there for a year, so I actually built lots of relationships with people there, and they became kind of good friends to me. And in some ways, my initial pull to going back was just, I just want to catch up with my friends. And then they're like, can you help me out with this or that? And do you want to do clinics with me here or there? Or can you help with training this or that? Yeah. And so it came from relationship. Mm. Yes. So the questions about is finances an issue and resources for the times that I spend overseas. Mostly I have not had a problem with it, but at the same time we have raised money in the past from the church to support some of the work, and so that's funded a few of my trips over. There has been some funding that has come from the US as well through my colleagues in Mongolia. So that has been helpful too. But definitely, like as we're kind of dreaming of what could be in the future, having financial support will kind of allow us to dream more and make bigger changes. So, or help. So, yeah. Does that answer? Mm-hmm. Yes. So the question was why, when I own my own business and then be able to use that to fund overseas. I have thought about that too. I guess in the balance of things, I have thought that the effort it takes to set that all up and run the business is not an effort that I was willing to make. And the way I'm doing it at the moment is trying to actually, instead of kind of having this limited group of optometrists in a practice, is to kind of maybe even gather people from all around Australia, potentially, optometrists who are interested in, who are able to support the work, you know, who are suitable and all that. And I'm looking at other funding options, but yeah, funding through business is certainly one option that I haven't taken. Any other? Predominant religion. I know they, how do you say on a predominant religion? Tibetan Buddhist, and a lot of people with just no religion, because with the Russian people, the Russian communist people take, I don't know, just atheist kind of. Oh, comment was, I must get so much joy and see that it's worthwhile. I do sometimes. Like talking maybe about it now, it's and seeing, oh, okay, this is what we've achieved. Okay, oh, I have done something. But I guess it is hard work too. So like I come back sometimes really tired, and like at the end of 2019 when I came back from a few months of training, like it was an amazing trip and training went really well and all that, but I came back and I thought, actually, maybe I never want to go back ever again. And then COVID came, and then that was kind of really helpful for me. But it's not all roses. I need reminding of it, to be honest. So thank you for reminding me again. Thank you, Chris. I won't repeat that for the microphone, sorry. But I appreciate it.
I think that's what all of us want to say. And Steph hates being up front. Getting better at that too, though. She has done a great job. When I first came here 20 years ago, Steph was in Mongolia, and she came back and we set up a yurt, or that's the Russian word ager, in the hall next door. And I met this strange woman who'd been over to this foreign place out with the sheep in the hills and, you know, doing that sort of stuff. And over the 20 years, I guess walking with you, wrestling with those questions and about what am I doing, and it feels like you're just falling into something and not feeling competent and worrying about other things in the future and should I do this or should I do that? And you've done chaplaincy studies, you've done Bible college, you've worked in courts and nursing homes and done all sorts of stuff. You've done lots of church work here, run all sorts of different groups. Steph's one of our deacons. All these different things, I guess, work together, and you just are you. And I guess that's why I asked her to talk today is we all have these questions. What should I do? What is my future? Where does God want me to be? How will I flourish or thrive or find a comfortable place to live out the life that Jesus calls me to? And it's often not clear. And that's your story. You've just sort of made little choices. Will I be a soccer player or not a soccer player? That takes you down this path. But we all face those little choices. And you never know where it's going to end up. It's very rarely up in lights. This is your future. This is your vocation. Off you go. We stumble into things, most of us. But I think it's having an orientation to be open to what does God want me to do, or do I live for myself? Because when we're anxious, when we worry, we become self-protective, and then we make poor choices. Because ironically, trying to save ourselves, we lose ourselves. Some wise man said that, didn't he? We can gain the whole world and lose our soul. But if we live for God's kingdom, then all the other stuff that we need somehow arrives, amazingly. We've been thinking together just about that. As I read through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, as we call it, I started to think, well, what does that look like in daily life? To live out this upside-down kingdom that he describes in our world with all its pressures and tensions. Jesus calls us to a bizarre lifestyle, and there's no hiding it. What he says is just weird. It's totally contrary to our feelings, our instincts. But then I thought, well, here's somebody who's doing it. An example to me, this is what it looks like. And my life isn't going to look exactly like that, but the same perspective should shape my life. For example, Jesus says these really weird anti-parent messages. He says, I tell you, do not worry. Good luck with that. Don't worry about your life and what you will eat or drink, and don't worry about your body and what you wear. Isn't there more to life than eating? Aren't there more important things for the body than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They don't plant or gather crops. They don't put away crops in storerooms. But your Father who is in heaven feeds them. Aren't you worth much more than they are? Can you add even 1 hour to your life by worrying? Who does not worry here? We all worry. How on earth do you do this? Why do you worry about clothes? See how the wildflowers grow. They don't work or make clothing. But here is what I tell you. Not even Solomon in all his royal robes was dressed like one of these flowers. We've seen that, haven't we? If that is how God dresses the wild grass, Won't he dress you even better? Your faith is so small. After all, the grass is here only today. Tomorrow it's thrown into the fire. So don't worry. Don't say, what will we eat? Or what will we drink? Or what will we wear? People who are ungodly run after all those things. Your Father who is in heaven knows that you need them. But put God's kingdom first. Do what he wants you to do. Then all those things will also be given to you. So don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. How do we live? Worrying and therefore not taking a risk, not responding to the opportunities that God brings us, or seeking first his kingdom and allowing that to shape our decision making. And that's, I think, what Steph does. Doesn't mean the worries disappear. Jesus doesn't say, well, just go and starve. God knows what we need. It's not that those things are unimportant. They are important. But what is the priority for us? Most of us, I think, want a secure life for ourselves, and then we'll think about serving God. When I've got married, when I've got my own business, when I've got lots of money in the bank account, then I can go and travel around the world and do good things. But Jesus says, no, go the other way. Seek God's kingdom first, and then all the other stuff that you need will somehow arrive. What does it take to live that way? It takes faith. It takes trust that God actually loves me and will care for me. And therefore I can be bold. These other things do matter, but it's where our heart is, where our treasure is. That's what draws us through life. One more little passage where Paul writes to Timothy, and he says some very similar things. He says, you gain a lot when you live a godly life. You're never a loser when you follow the ways of Jesus. But you must be happy with what you have. Contentment. We didn't bring anything into the world. We can't take anything out of it. If we have food and clothing, we will be happy with that. People who want to get rich are tempted. They fall into a trap. They are tripped up by wanting many foolish and harmful things. Those who live like that are dragged down by what they do. They are destroyed and die. Love for money causes all kinds of evil. Some people want to get rich. They've wandered away from the faith. They have wounded themselves with many sorrows. These are easy words to read, but they're hard ones to live, aren't they? But this is the contrast. Whose kingdom are we building? And that plays out in our jobs, our friendships, our hobbies, our church life. What do we prioritise? And it's a daily decision, I think, to follow Jesus in this way. To seek first his kingdom and not try and secure life by the love of riches. Which God do we follow? This is how God calls us into his mission. Because this is how Jesus lived, didn't he? He sacrificed everything because of love for others. If we live in imitation of him, in following him, in relationship connection with him, where his spirit shapes us to be like him, then this is also how we live too. But when we do that, we are free. We're free, we're not tripped up. And then we start to live valuable lives, truly valuable lives. And that's what Steph does. A life well lived, and one that we can be inspired by. God cares for all people. So mission is global. We learnt that 3 weeks ago. Everyone, Mongolia, Bangladesh, anywhere, not just Australia, not just our own family, not just people like us. Everyone is valuable to God. And it's about the whole of life. God does care for practical things like people being able to see. To live and flourish as Jesus wants life to be, we need decent health. I'm someone who got to school and failed the eye test, and I can't read the top line on the charts without my glasses. I would be legally blind. I can't read a Bible, can't read anything. I can't drive without my glasses. Makes a lot of difference to my life. Mission is holistic. But God cares for all of our moments. Let tomorrow worry about itself. Live now for God's kingdom, trusting Him for the future. This is what God's mission looks like. He will care for us. If we believe that, we'll be brave. We'll take a risk. Mission is now. So my question is, what's your calling now? What is your vocation now? Not just job, but all of the things that God is calling you to. What fits? And that's the DNA in that picture, if that makes sense to you. That's what Steph has described. Suddenly, maybe after 20 years, she's thinking, actually, this is a good fit for me. Because it's been a wrestle and a question, and I can't stand this job. I'm no good at this job. It's boring. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'll do something else. But maybe after 20 years, she's, I think, getting a spark of enthusiasm for her career. What fits for you? What's God's calling for you? And it's unique for each of us, but sharing together, I think, is how we discover that. Lots of conversations. Lots of, is this good or bad? Who will support me? Who will not support me? Who will encourage me? These are questions that we help one another to respond to. So your question, your challenge is to be active. Use your imagination this week. In the little booklet, there are 6 tasks for you to do over these 6 weeks. To pray, to give. Here is one just to think, to use your imagination. In my life now, what is God calling me to do? And as I think about the future, is there a direction, a path for me that God is taking me on? Am I open to that? Or am I too worried and say no? Maybe in your life groups you can talk about that with each other. Thank you again, Steph, for sharing with us. We do support people to do what they're called to do. So we've supported Steph in the past. We have 2 projects for this series that we're running to raise funds so that other people can do things in other parts of the world. One is in the Highlands, where people don't have access to hear this message of Jesus because of distance, because of language. And so people respond to God in writing songs, and those are communicated. Crimson Worship is something that we're raising funds for, to write, record and distribute these songs. A second one is very practical need response. Baptist World Aid in many different countries allows people to simply survive, but then also to develop as a community. And that's what Steph is doing, developing communities. They are active with partners on the ground to do that sort of stuff. I mentioned this particularly, end of the financial year is coming, 30th of June. If you give to this project before that date, our federal government will match every dollar you give with $5, up to $5, so $1 becomes $6. Pretty effective. You get to say where your taxes go because you're paying them. This is a good thing. Often I get cranky at what they waste money on. It's also tax deductible if that's helpful for you. So think about that. All the details are in that booklet or on our website. So I just put that before you. I think we're going to sing a song, then hang around and have a chat. Get one of these books if you didn't get one. And Steph's bought her box of tricks. You didn't show us that. You didn't do show and tell. One of the kids that all together, I came out and had a play, and I think he might have diagnosed himself as needing glasses. So if you've ever wondered, come and have a play, and it might be good for you as well. So anyway, let's stand up and sing. Thanks, Sam. Oh, you need this. Thanks.
I could just sit, I could just sit, I could just stay, I could just stay right where I am and hope to feel you, hope to feel something. I could hold on hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. I could be safe. I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home. Never let these walls down. You have come high. You have known me deep, and I'll go where you lead. You have called me higher. You have called me deeper, and I'll go where you lead. I could hold on. I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. I could be safe. I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home. Never let these walls down. But you have called me higher. You have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me. You have called me higher. You have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me. You lead me. I will be yours. I'll be yours for all my life. I'll be yours, oh, I'll be yours for all my life. I will be yours, oh, I'll be yours for all my life. I will be yours, oh, I'll be yours for all my life. Let your mercy light the path before me. I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. Let your mercy light the path before me. I will be yours, oh, I'll be yours for all my life. Let your mercy light the path before me. You have called me higher. You have called me deeper, and I'll go where you lead me. You have called me higher. You have called me deeper, and I'll go where you lead me. You lead me.
We do together is funded by you. And so thank you. That's a part that we can play. Look online to do that. Later today, 2 o'clock, we'll gather in Garden Square to pray. And then from 2:30, have our partnership meeting. We've got some important things to talk about today, some decisions to make together about our future as a church. So if you're here, you're welcome there. So come along, 2 o'clock to pray, 2:30 to discuss and decide together. And then Monday week, if you're stressed, if you know people who are stressed, education is a great opportunity, but it brings its stress as well. How do you manage that stress? Students, a lot of pressure. What's going to become of them if they fail? What will happen to their lives? How do we manage academic stress? Here's a seminar presented by people from Macquarie University. Good, reputable, useful information. Great to bring your friends to. So that's coming up Monday week as well. Let's live for the kingdom. we are sending one another out to live that way this week. Let's encourage one another. Let's do it together because God is with us. He's already out there. He's already doing his stuff. And he says, come and join me. So let's go and join him. Have a great week.